n8n. I think it's crazy that people are paying £20, $30, $50, $100 to run an application that is open source and it can be hosted yourself. Not quite for free, but if you've got the skills to host a virtual private server, you can run a stable and secure version of n8n for as little as €4 a month. This is incredibly simple. It takes barely an hour to set it up. It's going to cost you the price of a coffee. If you've got a lot of softwares and a lot of subscription already, I know this soon adds up, and especially if you're talking at enterprise level. If you just want to get started with n8n, then watch this video. Let's check it out now. Now, hosting is quite a popular one for choosing a virtual private server host, but you got to watch out with this because this is the price for a term. Now, if you cancel your plan, you actually sign a contract for the terms. Now, who I recommend is Hetzner. They're a Scandinavian host. It's not an affiliate shout out. This is purely just from my own research. So let's look at the prerequisites really quickly for n8n and what you need to host it on a virtual private server. Now, the thing is with n8n is the computing power, the processor power it takes up is just a run workflow. And actually, depending on what you integrate n8n with, the tools you use, they actually process and perform their operations outside of n8n. So you don't actually need an incredibly powerful server to run this. So with that in mind, these are the basic requirements. Hetzner, if you hit cloud and look at the prices for a shared CPU, AMD CPU, 2 gig RAM, 40 gig SSD, which is more than enough to get started with n8n. CPX 11 is the one you want, and that's €4 a month. On my Patreon, now we're going to be following a guide. You can get this guide for free on my Patreon. If you hit a link in a video, and we've got a guide, self-hosted n8n setup with Hetzner VPS. Once you join the Patreon for free, you get a link to the Notion page to follow along if you can't keep up with this video. So this is the Notion page, and I've tried to make this as simple as possible to follow along. I'm going to be adding a full in-depth tutorial to the Patreon also. So all the more reason to join Patreon for free. So here we are in Hetzner on their cloud service, and this is where I have my virtual private server. So a few things to remember when you sign up for Hetzner is that you're going to have to verify your identity, and this means when you sign up, you're going to have to use your real name and surname, and you're going to have to verify that with an official ID, whether that's a passport or a driving license. This is crucial because you will be locked out of your account if you cannot verify your identity. So you want to make sure as well that the name on your identity, on your official documentation, matches the name that you had for the account. And the process we're following to install this is essentially we get our virtual private server up and running, an instance of Docker. Now, Docker essentially is how we access and install things on the virtual private server. And using Docker, we install Easypanel, which is basically an easy to use interface to access our server and install n8n. So to get started then on Hetzner, we create a new project, which I've done here. I've created a test project, and it will ask you to add a server. So we hit add a server. Now there's a few things we want to pick. We want to pick the server closest to you. We scroll down to image. We want to select Docker, select shared CPU, CPX 11. That's the correct one we need. Keep everything the same. Now SSH key, we cover this in the guide. Now an SSH key essentially acts as like a two-step verification key that you create on your computer. So when we access Docker, the server detects that our computer has an SSH key valid, which means that we get instant access to our server. So you're going to want to add an SSH key. Otherwise, if you skip this step, you're going to get your sort of sign-in credentials sent to you via email. But the SSH key is really easy to set up, and it's definitely worth doing. Now, if you've not used a virtual private server before, essentially we use Terminal to log in and access the server. When I say access the server, we're accessing Docker, and then we're going to install Easypanel, which is a nice user interface that we can access via the browser. Now, if you want an in-depth tutorial on how to install the SSH key, then check out the Patreon where we're going to add this in-depth guide. So once we've reached the bottom, we add a server name, whatever you want to call it, and we create and buy the server now. There's an option to also add backups, which I think adds another €1 or €2 to the price, but it keeps a backup of your server in case something goes wrong. Okay, so once you've purchased your server and it's up and running, you're basically going to have a public IP address here. So you're going to want to copy your public IP address, open up Terminal, and if you set up your SSH key, you want to do ss root and then type in your public IP address that you just copied off Hetzner. If you've not done an SSH key, you can just forget about putting SSH and just put root. So you just go root at and then add your IP address, etc. What that means is then you've accessed the server and Docker. If you haven't used an SSH key, you'll be asked to input your login credentials and you hit enter. and then success, you're in dock access to your virtual private server. Now next, we don't want to keep accessing this server by terminal. So we want to install Easypanel, which means that we can access it via the web. So we want to go to easypanel.io. We just want to copy and paste this command. We want to go back to our terminal where we've logged in to the root of our server, paste this in and hit enter. Simple as that. Now Easypanel will install, and what you will see on screen is when it's successfully installed, it will say that it's been successful, and there will be a link with an IP address, etc. And this is how you access your server now via a browser. So you copy and paste link from terminal, and then you'll end up on your very own Easypanel login. So you create an account and then log into your Easypanel. Log in, and you can add a custom domain here, and then obviously that means you don't need to click on the IP address to log in. You can just go to your custom domain. I've added mine as a subdomain of my domain, DOMS content. So we've got Easypanel as a subdomain. Do you want to go to your domain registrar, open your DNS settings, and add a new A record, just whatever you want the subdomain to be called in a host, and then put that same IP address that you used to open up Easypanel as the value. If you're not using a subdomain, then you just want to add this public IP with a blank host, and then just your public IP, and then you want to redirect the www. Added a C name, just hit www, and then add the value as your domain. So save those changes, and now when you go on your subdomain or your domain, you should get through to your Easypanel. And when you're in there, you simply want to create a new project, add a service, find n8n. If you're not sure that this is the latest version, you just type latest and then hit create. Once that's fully deployed, click that, hit open, and there you have it. We're logged in to our own n8n virtual private server for €4 a month. As you can see, we can add credentials in here, we can create new workflows, and it's completely up to date. We've got the new MCP server trigger. So if you want to update this, head on to Easypanel, click the app, head over to source, and I actually need to update mine. So what I'm going to do is paste in, it's as simple as that, you just paste in the latest version. You can find the latest version, n8n, on the release notes, and just simply hit save. And then we're just going to redeploy the app, wait, and then we're back in, fully updated. We want to update Easypanel, and we just come to Easypanel and hit this little spinner icon here, say update is available, and then scroll down, and then in the bottom left, hit update now. And then once that's updated, we hit no update available. We're completely up to date, we're secure, which is what we want. And just as you can see the kind of power of this Hetzner virtual private server, then I've got probably about a dozen or so, maybe 12, maybe 15 or so different workflows built. And in terms of how much RAM we're using 39%, and I'm using 7 gig of the total space. And the workflows I'm using are quite complicated. So this just shows how good a choice it is to go Hetzner for €4. More than enough power here, secure, safe, quick and easy. If you need a more in-depth guide, then like I say, check out Patreon. The link will be in the description of this video. We've got a step-by-step guide here. It goes into all the details and explains everything in depth, including the SSH key, how to access Docker, how to install Easypanel, and then just how to configure your custom domains. Try to make it nice and straightforward. So if you get stuck, get that free resource, and hopefully that should be all you need to get your own n8n virtual private server. Otherwise, stay tuned for the full in-depth guide, which you'll be able to find on my Patreon soon. If that's something of interest and you do want a step-by-step detailed walkthrough, then drop a comment, let me know, and I'll sort that out for you. If you found this helpful, I'm going to be documenting how I'm using tools like n8n to help automate my work as a marketer and a content creator, trying to keep it straight to the point, minimal fluff, minimal hype, just right down to working systems. Because as AI and new technology becomes available, the cost and the barrier of entry to output content and stay valuable as a digital business professional, whether as an entrepreneur or a digital marketer, as the barrier of entry gets lower and lower, then we want to increase our moat of value around us and what we do with increasing complexity and automation and more advanced systems, allowing us to output huge deal more, freeing up our time to concentrate on more areas to add more value to what we do. So subscribe if that's your thing, and I'll see you in the next video.